Hans Staudtach, Antony Keen, Blasius Beck, and Leonhard Schneider, A.D. 1546. In the year 1546, 4 brethren, namely Hans Staudtach, or Kaufbeuren, Antony Keen, a tailor, of Gunzenhausen, Blasius Beck, and Leonhard Schneider, both of them also Kaufbeuren, while on their way with their wives and children to the church in Moravia, were apprehended in Austria. On the 3rd of August they were brought to Vienna, 2 and 2 fettered together, with great chains on their feet, and led through the city like criminals, with their wives and children following after them. They were brought into prison with their wives and children, and left for 4 days. In these 4 days they were examined and sorely assailed, whether they would continue in this faith. This they confessed, with the help and power of God they would do. Thereupon the 4 brethren were put into another prison. Afterwards they examined them again, and brought their wives and children into the house of the judge, but prevented the brethren from talking much with them. On Sunday, the 16th of August, much people came to them in prison and talked with the brethren, and concerning their wives. But however hard they were pressed to recant, they remained valiant and steadfast, though they threatened to take away their children from them. In the meantime, however, their wives were released, and came to the church. Subsequently much craftiness was reported to intimidate them, and caused them to apostatize. 4 times they were brought before the authorities at Vienna, also before monks, priests, and doctors, whom Christ does not in vain designate ravening wolves, of whom we are to beware. For their priests are like wolves, and indeed come under a fair appearance to devour them, yea, would have them all killed and destroyed. Hence it grieves the false prophets to leave any one pious and unseduced, and therefore they labor much, and in many various ways. They have enough who follow the doctrine of their false prophets, and walk after their ungodly and vicious life. They might well leave the pious in peace. Thus they also tempted these lovers of God, yet could not gain them, but were put to shame and reproach, for no one can pluck Christ's own out of his hand. John 10:28. They also read to them the mandate of the king, and threatened them with fire, water, and the sword, or that they should be kept on bread and water, and separated or drowned in the night, like brother Oswald of Jamnitz, as related previously. By these things they endeavored to intimidate them, but there was no intimidating these soldiers and heroes of the truth of God. On the 5th day after St. Michael's they were subjected to another hearing, whether they would renounce their faith. If not, they had orders to put them to death by fire, water, or the sword. This was the last warning. But when they could accomplish nothing by their threats, they brought all 4 of them back into the Joppen, a prison. Hans Staudtach was left in prison, Blasius in the wood room, and Leonhard with another, in a vacant apartment. But afterwards, about All Souls' Day, they were put together again. After all this, as they remained constant and steadfast, and continued to confess that they were going in the true way of the divine truth, which they were willing to seal with their blood, they were condemned to death a little after St. Martin's Day on the 22nd of November, and delivered to the executioner, who bound them, and in order to avoid too great a sensation, and not to have a large concourse of people come together, he led them out to the place of execution in the morning at daybreak. When they were being led out to the slaughter, they boldly and joyfully sang. A ring was made, as the executioners usually do. The brethren then knelt down and fervently prayed, offering up this burnt offering as their final farewell to the world. The executioner became sad, acted with reluctance, and was grieved in his heart that he had to perform this execution. The other children of Pilate also wished to be innocent, yet they had to do it because of their superiors in authority and by virtue of their office, but they would much rather have been excused. They then blessed each other and exhorted one another to steadfastness, to be strong, and of good cheer, saying, "Today we shall be together in the kingdom of our heavenly Father," etc. Thus all 4 were beheaded with the same sword, and undauntedly and boldly surrendered their necks for the name of Christ.